Hello and welcome to Todd versus
BBD.
Today I'm going to be playing a little bit of Concept Tarkir Standard with Braun-Duin, and my deck's not really that spicy. I'm playing an Abzan mid-range deck with 4 Elvish Mystic. Going to try to accelerate into some Planeswalkers, some big fatties like Dr. Siegeman, MD. But Brian's got a sweet take on a red-white deck, and I'm going to let him take it away.
Yep, so I'm playing a deck that I like to call red-white wreck them, where wreck is a different word that sounds similar to wreck.
Is that like Beep It Ralph?
Yes, it
We're
is.
just flip-flopping?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah, this is a red-white deck. It's kind of similar to what Beard Nelson played at the Pro Tour, where you've got your prowess, you have your Seeker, Rabble Master, and Hordling Outburst alongside like Lightning Strikes, Magma Jets, Chain of the Rocks, and Stoke the Flames. Pretty like typical red-white shell there. But where the difference lies is that we actually go a lot bigger with Ashcloud Phoenix and Stormbreath Dragon.
Okay.
And I think that Hordling Outburst is the best card in Standard.
That's
I think that
bold statement.
Chandra is the best Planeswalker in Standard.
Double bold.
And I think Stormbreath Dragon is the best creature in Standard.
Christian Sideboard.
Yeah. Yeah, he had nothing to do with this deck, but he is a Magic player.
Yeah, that's true. That's why, yeah.
So those are all extremely bold statements, but I'm going to hopefully try to back them up. I've been playing this deck a lot on Magic Online, and I've actually 4-0'd the last 4 dailies I've played with it. So I think the deck's actually very powerful.
That's interesting, because I don't remember Magic Online having been around for the last 3 months, because it kind of just doesn't work anymore, right?
It still works for me. I don't know how that...
Yeah, I'm just joking. So I actually really like the look of this deck. I feel like you have a lot of draws that can be really aggressive with things like Goblin Rabble Master, Seeker, and then just following that with a bunch of removal spells. Yeah. So decks that don't have a removal spell of their own, or if they're just a little slow to start, can get run over very easily. But you also have a really good top-end late game with Chandra, Stormbreath Dragon, and Ashcloud Phoenix, and I think it could give a lot of decks a lot of trouble.
So one of the things about Chandra right now is that her ping is actually pretty good in the format right now. There are things like Hordling Outbursts and stuff being played. You can actually kill like a decent number of creatures that way. It's a way to fight through things like Hornet Queen sometimes, things of that ilk. Kills off like the Rattleclaws and Elvish Mystics that people are playing.
Yeah, I want to point out one really cool thing about this deck is that normally this style of deck will want to play something like Wingmate Rock, some big hard hitter late in the game. But in order to make Hushwing Gryff a little bit better, we have Stormbreath Dragon instead. Plus, the haste on Stormbreath Dragon allows you to race like control decks when they tap out for like a removal spell or a Planeswalker or something like that. You get to hit them hard, whereas Wingmate Rock is a little too reliant on you attacking first, so it's a little weaker in those matchups. But having protection from white is great when people are trying to use Abzan Charm as their main removal spell.
Yeah, Abzan Charm is the primary removal spell right now, along with Chain to the Rocks.
Yep.
And Stormbreath Dragon conveniently dodges both, which is why I think it's a lot better than Wingmate Rock. Also, exactly for the reason that Todd said, you don't have to overextend against a control deck. Wingmate Rock is like the definition of overextending against things like end hostilities. Whereas Dragon, I like to actually just sit on Dragon until they tap out, and then Dragon them the next turn. And because we have so many burn spells, along with like Chandra pinging and like unmorphing Ashcloud Phoenix and stuff, a lot of times you can just play this game where you're like, I just need to get my opponent to 7 life. Like I don't have to actually kill them. I just have to get them down to like 7, and then I can strike and soak them out. So there is a lot of advantages there where like, even if your opponent's like really locked down the game with a lot of removal spells, you still can just, and if they're not killing you, you can still just draw some burn spells over the course of like 4 or 5 turns.
I feel like it is a little difficult for them to kill you though, because you do have Chain of the Rocks as a primary removal spell for their bigger guys. One thing I would like to see tried out is perhaps like Brad Nelson's version from Pro Tour Concept Tarkir. He actually had Searing Blood main deck over the Magma Jets to kind of go with the aggressive theme in the early turns of the game. It's also a fantastic card against Sorin, Solemn Visitor, and I'm not sure if it's better than Magma Jet. The Scry's probably very good in this deck because there are some draws that don't want to get flooded, whereas other draws you do need to hit your lands to cast things like Stormbreath Dragon. So
yeah, that's the reason for the Jets, but Searing Blood's actually a really good idea and something definitely worth testing out.
Yeah.
Hushwing Griff is actually a card I have not played at all with yet. Last night I finally went through every red-white card in the entire format, and I was trying to find something that would help me against the Whip Hornet Queen decks. And
that's not bad against them.
Yeah, so
especially the one like Brad Nelson's Abzan Whip deck that he's been playing the last couple weeks. So.
Yeah, Rhinos, Doomwakes, things of that nature. Just being able to not get wrecked by them, like the turn they play them is really huge because usually you're ahead on board and you just need to finish them off.
Yeah.
So.
All right. My only concern, I think, is only having access to 12 white sources. But I think it's usually okay to have just a few more white sources than white cards in your deck because we do only have 10.
Yeah.
So the real tester for me to sell me on the mana base is going to be in the sideboard and how many white cards you have in and how many come in certain matchups. Because one thing that people forget is when you build your sideboard, you have to take into consideration your mana base or vice versa. And if you don't, you're going to overboard for some matchups and you're going to draw like one white source and then you're going to need to cast 2 or 3 white cards in one turn in order to catch back up.
I think that is an extremely valid point, and thankfully for that, we actually have the solution in the sideboard, which we will check out now. All right, so we are back with the sideboard, and as you can see, we do have another white source on our board that we're going to want to bring in when we bring in a lot of these white cards, but it also serves another purpose as a 25th land. There are some decks, such as like control decks, where we want to bring in all 5 of these cards, and I don't feel comfortable having this many 4 and 5 drops with only 24 land. So being able to bump it up to 25 really helps us play these cards as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great transitional point when your deck needs to get a little bit bigger. Like, you don't mind drawing an extra land or 2 in those matchups, so long as you can cast your spells on time. And a lot of those games you're going to lose when you don't draw enough lands as opposed to too many, especially when you have mana sinks like Ash Cloud Phoenix. You have card advantage generators like Chandra.
Yeah. To go over some of these other cards, Banishing Light's just been a very good catch-all removal spell. I want more Erases and more Glare of Heresies, but
they're a little too narrow.
Yeah, they're definitely too narrow, and Banishing Light lets you play more of those effects for a little bit steeper of a cost, but has much more versatility as well. And then a couple of Magma Sprays for the red decks, which I think that those decks are actually pretty good matchups because just the power of like Secret...
Hordling Outburst.
Yeah, Secret of the Way and Hordling Outburst are just so good against that deck, as is Chandra.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't need too many cards for there, but it is nice to have a couple of sprays as well.
Yeah, you'll see like the current trend in Standard right now is that most sideboards, if they have access to black or red, they'll have either Drown in Sorrow or Anger of the Gods. But this deck in particular wants to be a little bit bigger than the regressive red decks while still playing a ton of really small creatures. So we can't afford to play Anger of the Gods in this kind of a sideboard. So Magma Spray just fits the bill.
Yeah, plus like Ash Cloud Phoenix is a real integral part of the deck, and Anger is just not very good with Ash Cloud Phoenix in the same thing.
Not great.
And then we have a singular Hushwing Griff as well to come in. Basically for those kinds of whip decks or decks that are playing Hornet Queen or things of that nature where you really need to shut down their come into play effects. One thing I really like about the sideboard is there's a lot you can do to change. So there are some matchups where Stormbreath Dragon is just the best thing ever, but there are other matchups where it's actually not even that great, and you can actually just swap them for Sarkans. You don't even have to bring in the extra land. You can just make that direct swap and things like that. And I don't know, I've been playing a lot with the deck. I really enjoy it a lot. I was losing with every single deck I was playing in Standard prior to this one.
Well, I am still losing with every deck I play in Standard, so maybe I'll switch to this deck and give it a try.
Yep, so I know that I was doing terrible in Standard. I'm not that good at the Standard format, so if I'm winning with this deck, it's got to be pretty good. At least that's my thought, so.
All right, guys, that is Brian's red-white
Wreck 'em
deck. We'll be right back for the videos.